Announcements by the Speaker.
A message from the Senate has been received requesting concurrence by the House to amendments adopted by the Senate to the following House File number 281.
Reports from the Committee on Rules and Legislative Administration.
Winkler from the Committee on Rules and Legislative Administration, pursuant to Rules 1.21 and 3.33, designates the following bills to be placed on the calendar for the day for Friday, May 17, 2019, and establishes a pre-filing requirement for amendments offered to the following bills: Senate file numbers 1100, 328, and 2130.
Calendar for the day. The first bill on the calendar for the day is House File number 129. The clerk will report the bill.
House File number 129, number 1 on the calendar for the day, an act relating to state government.
I recognize the author of the bill, member from Carleton, Representative Sundin.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. House File 129 authorizes the public members of the Governor's Council on Developmental Disabilities to receive a per diem compensation and reimbursement for certain expenses. The law authorizing the payments provides for $55 per day per diem on days spent on council activities and expense reimbursements, including child care expenses when authorized by the council. Among other activities, the council is directed by law to oversee certain state responsibilities related to persons with developmental disabilities required by the Federal Developmental Disabilities Assistance and Bill of Rights Act of 2002. The council consists of 25 members. 15 of those are citizen members, and some of those are suffering from disabilities and or their family members as well. So this is a good bill, and I'd urge a green vote.
There are no amendments at the desk. The clerk will give the bill its third reading.
Third reading, House File number 129.
Third reading. Members' discussion to House File 129. The member from Wabasha, Representative Drazkowski.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Would the author yield?
The author will yield. Representative Drazkowski.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Representative Sundin, you're bringing forward a bill related to a work group or council here that appears to have been meeting already. I'm curious, how long has this council been in existence in law? And if they weren't provided per diem and expenses when this council was developed, why wasn't apparently it wasn't important then that they be compensated for their time? I'm guessing it was kind of a volunteer type environment when this was formed. So I'm curious if you can respond to that.
Representative Sundin.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. And Representative Drazkowski, this council was formed in actually 2002 and been in existence. These people have been volunteering their time, but they're running into expenses with babysitting, that type of thing, child care, while they're trying to serve the public.
Representative Drazkowski.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Would the author continue to yield?
The author will continue to yield. Representative Drazkowski.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Representative Sundin, you mentioned 15 are volunteer members of this council. That would leave 10 that likely in this huge government that we have that has ostensibly hundreds of groups like this that are probably meeting, that there are government employees sprinkled throughout all of them. How many in this particular council, amongst all of them, how many in this particular council are government employees? Are all 10 of the remainder government employees? And if so, are they already receiving per diem and reimbursement elsewhere, or are we going to be providing per diem and expense reimbursement for these usually very well-paid government employees? Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
Representative Sundin.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker, and thank you for your concerns, Representative Drazkowski. The remaining 10 are legislators that would choose to be appointed by the governor and/or agency department people within the state government, and they are not eligible for any additional per diem whatsoever.
Representative Drazkowski.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Would the author yield one more time?
Representative Sundin will yield. Representative Drazkowski.
So thank you, Mr. Speaker. So Representative Sundin, under this bill, will any of those non-volunteer individuals be receiving per diem or expense reimbursement that would be new reimbursement to them?
Representative Sundin.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. No.
Representative Drazkowski.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker and members. Thank you, Representative Sundin, for answering those questions. While I think certainly I am very sympathetic to the nature of this group, ostensibly helping people with developmental disabilities, probably everybody in this chamber is, this bill isn't about them. This is about us continuing to fund pieces of government to increase the liabilities for the taxpayers of Minnesota. Of course, members, we have a $1 billion surplus in the state of Minnesota now for the next 2 years projected. And as I understand, the April numbers came out, which adds about another, if you add March and April since the February forecast, another $500 million of additional money that is going to be extracted from the taxpayers of Minnesota over the next 2 years. Add that together, members and Mr. Speaker, to the $1 billion projected surplus that occurred because of or due to or at the time of the February forecast. And you have $1.5 billion of overcollection of people's money. And I don't know how many bills like this that the Democrat majority is looking to find more places to spend money. And certainly, if you're going to find one, Representative Sundin, my heart goes out to the people with disabilities. This might be the best council to spend money on. And I will grant you that. But we seem to be falling all over ourselves to spend money here in the state of Minnesota. This is the people's money. We didn't have a commitment in law to pay these individuals. They're volunteers, and it seems to me that the volunteerism approach has been working well for 17 years. And I don't know why after 17 years we suddenly have to find a way to pay these volunteers who very likely, Representative Sundin, you could probably tell us, but are different volunteers from 1 year to the next or every 4 years or something like that. That's the way these councils usually work. And so it is looked at, I think, as the members of this group and as many of them as a volunteer type of approach. And that's how they see that when they enter into this. And many of these committees and councils and work groups and other things, entities that we form in state government here operate that way. And then suddenly there's a whole bunch of other people's money available, and we have legislators coming forward wanting to take that money and give it to these people and turn it into no longer a volunteer effort, which was the effort that was understood when the council or group was formed. And now we have turned that into a pay type of approach. And so that's what you're doing with the bill here, Representative Sundin. Again, for me, this is not about whether the nature of the group. It's just that we continue to do this, and I struggle with that. But of course, there's $1.5 billion of the people's money on the pile here in St. Paul, collecting and over-collecting. And of course, we have the $2.5 billion members of reserves that are sitting here. That's in a different pile, I think, Mr. Speaker, maybe in a different room, I don't know, but it's here in St. Paul, and it's the people's money. And that people's money is collecting interest here. It's over-collected by so much. So, Representative Sundin, I can see maybe the propensity for members like you to want to help by paying groups like this, because There's so much of the people's money here collecting right now and over collecting, and I just can't believe, Mr. Speaker, that the Democrats want to raise taxes by $4.5 billion in the next biennium and $12 billion over the next 4 years. But maybe that's how we try to turn all these volunteer efforts into no longer volunteer efforts like they were when they were formed out, Mr. Speaker, but instead we turn them into paid efforts going forward, ostensibly for new groups of people in each of those groups who then look at them as paid situations instead of volunteer situations, which have, in my mind, Mr. Speaker and members, the volunteer approach seems to be a much more wholesome and worthwhile endeavor for the people of Minnesota than one that has a paid approach that develops an entitlement for that group of individuals. Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Thank you, members.
Any further discussion on House File 128? Representative Sundin.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. I'd like to bring some comfort to Representative Drazkowski. I'll let you know this bill cost about $8,000, which is somewhat less per year than you or I receive in per diems as legislators. But that money actually comes from federal grant money. It does not affect the budget here in Minnesota or the general fund, so let's not be too concerned about how it affects the state of Minnesota. So thank you for your comments, Representative Drazkowski. I still urge a green vote.
Any further discussion on House File 129? If not, the clerk will take the roll. The clerk will close the roll. There being 120 ayes and 8 nays, the bill is passed and its title agreed to. The next bill on the calendar is House File 286. The clerk will report the bill.
House File number 286, number 2 on the calendar for the day, an act relating to railroads.
There are amendments at the desk, but with no objections, if we can have the author explain the bill first. I'll call on the author of the bill, the member from Hennepin, Representative Hornstein.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Members, House File 286 addresses the issue of minimum crew size for Class 1 and Class 2 railroads. Those are our larger freight carriers in the state of Minnesota. And I took an interest in this bill after a series of high-profile accidents involving oil trains. One was in Quebec, Canada in 2013, and that cost the lives of 47 individuals. Shortly thereafter, there was an accident in Castleton, North Dakota. Another train carrying the Bakken oil that was actually heading towards Minnesota. Castleton's about 20 miles west of Fargo. Explosion, a big fireball. Fortunately, it was in a rural area. But the fact that there was a two-person crew really avoided and prevented a much larger catastrophe from happening. And so this is a common sense approach to rail safety. We have had bipartisan concern and even agreement on the fact that because Minnesota has become such a byway for oil and other hazardous materials, that we need to have as safe a rail system as possible. A two-person crew is a very important way to guarantee rail safety. And so, members, that is why I'm carrying this bill, and I ask for your support.
Representative Heinrich offers the following amendment. The clerk will report the amendment.
Heinrich moves to amend House Law number 286, and the amendment is coded A19-0401.
I call on the member from Anoka, Representative Heinrich, to your amendment.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Members, under the Obama administration and the federal rulemaking process, the Federal Railroad Administration acknowledged that union members reporting for duty were in fact sometimes under the influence or impaired by alcohol or drugs. In fact, the Federal Register comments that the Federal Railroad Administration, they acknowledge that a second crew member might suspect that a person is used or is using or possessing alcohol or drugs on railroad property. That's a quote. There are better and more efficient ways to test this than a second person. Ways that don't cost shippers of freight, like farmers, taconite mines, consumers who buy goods, and more, to pay additional costs to keep a second and unnecessary person in the cab. According to the Federal Railroad Administration Office of Safety Analysis report, I quote, "No data supports two-person crews are safer than one person." Now, members, I believe in the saying trust but verify. A lot of people have said, and I believe it's true, that the operators they have probably the cleanest blood in the nation. But this amendment would ensure some level of safety that through responsible drug and alcohol testing, we can make sure that we do have a trust but verify policy here. Members, let's trust but verify. I ask for your support for this amendment. Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
Any discussion on the A19-0401 amendment? Representative Hornstein.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Thank you, Representative Heinrich. You raised some important concerns. And I would recommend a no vote on this because, members, this is already, as Representative Heinrich said, in federal rule. And so it's not necessary. This is in federal rule. If we put it in state law, then it would negate the law because of preemption. So again, for those two reasons, I would recommend a no vote.
Any further discussion? The member from Dakota, Representative Garofalo.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Members, first I would request a roll call on the amendment.
Roll call's been requested. Seeing 15 hands, there will be a roll call. Representative Garofalo.
Mr. Speaker and members, to clear a vote, I think members should vote green on this amendment.
Any further discussion? Seeing none, the clerk will take the roll. The clerk will close the roll. There being 56 ayes and 74 nays, the A19-401, the motion does not prevail. The A19-0401 amendment is not adopted. There's an amendment at the desk. Representative Koznick offers the following amendment. The clerk will report the amendment.
Koznick moves to amend House File Number 286. The amendment is coded A19-0403.
I call on the member from Dakota, Representative Koznick.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Members, this amendment adds any entity that oversees the operation of trains or streetcars for movement of passengers to the bill. Railroads have deployed technology that has resulted in record safety numbers. Since 2000, the train accident rate is down 38%. The employee injury rate is down 47%, and rail grade crossings collisions rate is down 42%. Allowing railroads to continue to use technology to innovate rather than mandating an operational practice that hinders innovation is what the overall bill does. But we know that the Metro Transit Light Rail is dangerous. We've seen that time and time again, and earlier this year we even had a bill to address a tragedy that happened on the Green Line. So why not require them to have 2 people in the cab of every engine, just like the bill does for the other train carriers? That's what the amendment does.
Any discussion to the amendment? Representative Hornstein.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Thank you, Representative Koznick. We have had some extensive discussion on this issue, which is a valid concern. Representative Joachim's bill addresses this in part that we had passed earlier. But transit and freight rail are entirely different kinds of things, and they are regulated both federally, but by different federal agencies. So it's sort of an apples and oranges kind of thing, and I would recommend a no vote because, again, we're asking, the state is asking federal agencies to do something which would make this preemptive. But again, there's a lot of different issues. It's not equivalent. These transit streetcars and light rail cars are not carrying hazardous materials. They're not as extensive as the freight system. So again, for those 2 reasons, I recommend a no vote.
The member from Meeker, Representative Erdahl.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Would Representative Hornstein yield for a question, please?
Representative Hornstein will yield. Representative Erdahl.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Representative Hornstein, if a train had just one crew, just the engineer, and something happened to the engineer, is there an automatic shut-off or anything like that?
Representative Hornstein.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Representative Erdahl. There are, and again, I think it was an important point that Representative Koznick made, and I don't view positive train control and some of these other technological innovations as at all mutually exclusive of having another human as part of this. But the reason that we're doing this is that not only is it for the fact that there could be an issue with a medical issue or otherwise with one crew member, and you want to have another set of eyes and ears, but you also, if in case of an accident, you also have someone else that can really help. And in the case of Castleton and another grade crossing accident, having that second crew member was really, really important in terms of rescue and assisting first responders.
Representative Erdahl.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. I'm guessing Representative Hornstein doesn't know for sure if there's an automatic shut-off, so I'll just leave it at that. Thank you.
Any further discussion? Representative Koznick.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker and members. You know, the light rail here in Minneapolis oftentimes is compared to other regional metropolitan areas on their own peer comparison: Denver, Dallas, St. Louis, New Jersey, Charlotte, Sacramento, San Jose, Portland, Los Angeles. In our Metro Transit system, since 2014, the Metro Transit light rail trains have had the most collisions, the most safety events, and the most injuries per million miles of any peer transit system across the country. If we're going to mandate a 2-person crew in the underlying bill, Why are we not protecting our citizens here in the metro area when we have such staggering statistics that this is a dangerous transit system? Mr. Speaker, I would request a roll call.
Roll call's been requested. Seeing 15 hands, there will be a roll call. Representative Koznick.
Members, I just think that we should take a quick look at this. It's an easy vote to protect our citizens, especially when the data is so clear that this would help protect people that are not just riding the light rail trains, but those that are driving near it and pedestrians by it.
Any further discussion? Seeing none, the clerk will take the roll. The clerk will close the roll. There being 47 ayes and 84 nays, the motion does not prevail. The A19-0403 amendment is not adopted. There's another amendment at the desk. Representative Torkelson offers the following amendment. The clerk will report the amendment.
Torkelson moves to amend House File number 286, and the amendment is coded A19-0404.
The member from Brown, Representative Torkelson, to your amendment.
Well, thank you, Mr. Speaker and members. We've been working on this issue for quite some time, as everyone knows, and on the basis just of our diligence, it's amazing that this has come back to the floor again today. We've heard the author of the bill talk about hazardous materials and how he thinks that that is the focus of the need for this two-man crew issue. I disagree with that. I don't think it's necessary at all, based on the safety record of our railroads. It has been steadily improving. The fact that injury rates are down and collisions are down, and we've invested here in Minnesota, thanks to the work we've done in the last couple of sessions. We've invested heavily in improving the safety at our rail grade crossings through investments in equipment and investments in actually separating the railroads from other traffic. But this is a pretty simple amendment. It would just kind of focus the two-man crew issue on these oil trains that the author has identified as being really the crux of the problem. I disagree with the bill in general, but if we're going to do it, let's do it where it actually may, at least according to the author of the bill, be most needed. Members, I would ask for a roll call on.
Roll call has been requested. Seeing 15 hands, there will be a roll call. Representative
Thank you, Mr. Speaker, and a green vote.
Any further discussion? Representative Hornstein.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Thank you, Representative Torkelson. And yes, I think you have identified one of the main concerns that I and others have in terms of the danger of hazardous materials, but it goes beyond that. We've had a lot of concern about grade crossing safety. There are all kinds of products that are being hauled, derailments that cause death and injury beyond the hazardous materials. That's one reason I'm asking for a no vote. The second reason is railroads don't have a choice of what they can haul. They're through federal regulation and interstate commerce protocols. They don't have a choice, and because of that, this would also prompt, I think, issues around federal preemption of the bill, and so for those two reasons, I would ask for a no vote.
Representative Torkelson.
Well, thank you, Mr. Speaker, and thank you, Representative Hornstein. I just failed to point out a number of letters that have been distributed on both sides of this issue, but a whole packet full of letters is supporting my position, our position on not seeing the need for a two-man crew. The author has mentioned the basis of preemption, and we'll talk about more about that in third reading, but it seems like we're using that argument as preemption as a basis for arguments on both sides of this bill. Points out just how dicey this issue is and how important it is that we address this very carefully, because, as we all know, these railroads are regulated by the federal government. Again, I urge a green vote. Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
Any further discussion? Seeing none, the clerk will take the roll. The clerk will close the roll. There being 57 ayes and 73 nays, the motion does not prevail. The A190404 amendment is not adopted. Being no further amendments at the desk, the clerk will give the bill its third reading.
Third reading, House File Number 286.
Third reading. Discussion. The representative from Isanti, Representative Johnson.
Mr. Speaker, members, there's an interesting word that's been brought up a number of times on this bill, preemption. And Mr. Speaker, wondering if Representative Hornstein would yield for a question.
Representative Hornstein will yield. Representative Johnson.
Representative Hornstein, there's been a couple states that have enacted laws like this, and actually one of them has been litigated in court. But I'm just wondering, with as heavily regulated as the rail industry is by the federal government, would this law actually, would Minnesota actually be able to enforce a law like this?
Representative Hornstein.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker, and thank you, Representative Johnson. Yes, this particular item is not regulated at the federal level, and so therefore we've had 4 states that have enacted this, and you know, we would be able to proceed.
Representative Johnson.
Mr. Speaker, members, Representative Hornstein, it's true, we've had 4 states enact this. Wisconsin, which was overturned by the federal government because the Federal Railroad Authority is already dealing with this issue. California has never enforced theirs, even on their short lines in state. Arizona was overturned and they've reintroduced a bill. Their first bill was overturned because of what is called feather bedding, you know, the law that they have. And West Virginia has one, but it will not go into effect until all the states around them has also passed laws like this. One thing you got to remember, crew size is federally regulated. And regulated by the Federal Railroad Safety Act, Interstate Commerce Act, and federal labor laws. If we enact something like this, it would be railroads and the companies and probably the federal government would come in and litigate it and find it that the state cannot do this. So please vote against this bill.
The member from Waseca, Representative Petersburg.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. And I was wondering if Representative Hornstein would yield for
Representative Hornstein will yield. Representative Petersburg.
Thank you. Representative Hornstein, do you know how many Class 1 or Class 2 railroad companies currently run one-man crews?
Representative Hornstein.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker, and Representative Petersburg. Two-man crews are, person crews are, you know, the common way in which the carriers are staffed at this point. So they acknowledge how important this is. This is a way to guarantee that this very basic and common sense public safety regimen is continued to be followed. So we don't have currently one-person crews. That would be very dangerous. And so we want to make sure that that continues.
Representative Petersburg.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker, and thank you, Representative Hornstein. I'm going to ask you for another few questions, if I could ask him to yield.
Representative Hornstein will yield. Representative Petersburg.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. But to this point, the importance that you've just stated because of safety is also an issue for the railroad companies and their need for safety as well. And they're looking for really the involvement of both through labor negotiations as well as the best for their company to avoid lawsuits and other issues as well. So that I'm concerned as to why we're trying to get into labor negotiations at this point. I think you've said before that this is about safety. And so I want to get, first of all, clarification on the safety that we're talking about. So if Representative Hornstein would answer, so are we talking about the safety of the crew that's riding the train and controlling it, or about public safety?
Representative Hornstein.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Representative Petersburg. We're talking about the safety of both. And to your point, collective bargaining is a matter between labor and management, but there's a public aspect to this too. So I appreciate the fact that you've raised and reiterated the fact that this really goes beyond just simple labor management negotiations, but is a broader issue for the public.
Representative Petersburg.
Thank you. And to that point about the public around, a lot of the trains that we're concerned about and dealing with are a mile long, a little bit longer than that. And so if Representative Hornstein would yield for one more question.
Representative Hornstein will yield. Representative Petersburg.
My question is, with a mile-long train, do you know about how long a distance it takes in order to stop that train?
Representative Hornstein.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Representative Petersburg. There's a number of factors that would depend on the weight of the train and the speed of the train.
Representative Petersburg.
Thank you. And my understanding is that a mile-long train takes close to a mile in order to stop. Think of it your own car. If you're stopping a car, do you think you can stop within one car length of that? No, it takes longer than that. And so let's just say for the sake of public safety, there is unfortunately an accident. And you are, the engineer and conductor see it, they slam on the brakes, and they're now a mile down the road, down the railroad track from the accident. And I don't know about you, but I think the record for running a mile on good track is still about 4 minutes, a little bit under 4 minutes. That's with a nice smooth track. Now you got to understand this is going to be on ditches and other things. It's going to be a good 10 minutes before somebody can get back to the accident. We're dealing with a 911 call that the engineer could do as well that would have emergency people there probably quicker than the engineers could be there. So when we talk about safety, we can get caught up into the emotional aspect of saying, oh, we need to have somebody there all the time, and we need to have somebody there that's going to really deal with this immediately. But the reality is that our emergency people will be there quicker than we could and deal with it at that time. Again, I go back to the fact that I believe this is employee relations that needs to be negotiated. We've already heard that there is already labor contracts that will deal with this. By the way, this is not the first time that crews have been downsized, and every one of them was through labor negotiations. It wasn't because of federal law or state law. I'm not sure that there is a real need for this at this point, and so I would certainly support and ask for a no vote. Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
The member from Wright, Representative Lucero.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Would the bill author yield?
He will yield. Representative Lucero.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. And Chair Hornstein, can you confirm if there is a civil or criminal penalty in the bill?
Representative Hornstein.
Yes, there is. Representative Lucero, if you look at lines line 12 and 13, you'll see a fine of $250 for a first-time violation and $1,000 for each subsequent violations. That's line 1.12 and 1.13.
Representative Lucero.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. And when looking at this, I see the word misdemeanor. So if the chair would just nod his head, am I reading this correct? This is a criminal penalty, not a civil penalty. If you'd either nod or if he wants to yield.
Are you asking Representative Hornstein to yield?
If he wants to nod,
Representative
or he can
Hornstein.
answer.
Mr. Speaker, it is a misdemeanor.
Thank you. Representative Lucero.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. I don't see Chair Mariani on the floor. Would Vice Chair Edelson yield for a question?
Would Representative Edelson will yield to a question. Representative Lucero.
Thank you, Mr. Chair and Vice Chair Edelson. Can you tell me, because this does contain criminal penalty language, can you tell me if this bill was heard in the Public Safety Division?
Representative Edelson.
Thank you. The fine was minor, so Public Safety did not hear it.
Representative Lucero.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Well, minor is a subjective term. And this is a pretty major bill, according to Chair Hornstein. And so I would make a motion, Mr. Speaker, that the bill be re-referred to the Public Safety Division in order to have a proper hearing.
It's been a motion.
And I would ask for a roll call.
Roll call being requested. Seeing 15 hands, there will be a roll call. So we have a motion to re-refer to the Public Safety Division. So it is the Public Safety and Criminal Justice Reform, Finance, and Policy Division is what you're asking, Representative Lucero?
Mr. Speaker, so moved.
Very good. Representative Hornstein.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker and members, and I would ask for a no vote for the reasons that Representative Edelson had mentioned.
Any further discussion on the motion? Hearing none, the clerk will take the roll. The clerk will close the roll. There being 56 ayes and 74 nays, the motion to re-refer does not prevail. Representative Lucero, you have the floor.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. That's disappointing. I believe that this would have been important, that the public safety have the opportunity to hear this, to delve into the details, to see if this is an appropriate fine or penalty or not, or if some other alternative might have been more appropriate for this bill. Given that this failed and that the Public Safety Division has been denied that opportunity, members, I would encourage you to vote no on the bill. Thank you.
The member from Carver, Representative Nash.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Well, Chair Hornstein, I didn't have the pleasure to serve on your committee, so I didn't get to see some of the potential briefings that may have happened from the railroad. So I was wondering if you would yield to a question.
Representative Hornstein will yield. Representative Nash.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Chair Hornstein, did you happen to get a briefing on some of the technology improvements that the rail industry has been making over the years relative to stopping a train or investigating what's going on with the ties or the rails or some of the improvements that they've made? Because I did take that briefing, and I was just wondering if maybe you've had that chance.
Representative Hornstein.
Thank you very much, Mr. Speaker. Representative Nash, we have had over the years, and including this year, pretty extensive conversation in the committee about rail safety. We have a bill about inspectors. We had this bill. The railroads have testified. I wouldn't necessarily say it was a briefing beyond what you would see in terms of normal public testimony, but I'm familiar with positive train control and some of the other innovations that have taken place over the last decade.
Representative Nash.
And thank you, Mr. Speaker. Well, Chair Hornstein, do you happen to know what the industry has invested in technology improvements in recent years?
Are you asking Representative?
If you will continue to yield to a series of questions.
Representative Hornstein will yield. Representative
thank
Hornstein.
you, Mr. Speaker. Representative Nash, I don't have an exact figure on that.
Representative Nash.
Well, Mr. Speaker, guess what? I do. So in the briefing I took with the rail industry, and they've invested over $25 billion over the last number of years and $100 million for train safety. And what they've done, members, is that they have gone to the level of actually having machines that can investigate the condition of the railroad ties, or they can look at the condition of the rails. They have the ability to track a train via GPS. They have encrypted radio that communicates between themselves, other trains, and the scheduling depots. So I guess what I'm trying to point out here, Chair Hornstein, is that the two-person crew is not needed as it relates to train safety, because the industry has made massive investments all on their own, understanding that they want to run a safe rail line, and the improvements have been impressive. I can send over the information I got if you'd like it. I'll have it delivered to your office. And there's a great video that I've seen from a couple of the rail companies. Members, they've made a massive investment in technology. And technology has the ability, as many of you have cars, that if you see that you're getting too close, the car will actually stop you. And I think Chair Hornstein, you know, they have technology that will actually change or slow the cars down. So I guess I just would encourage you to maybe withdraw this bill, or members vote no on this bill, because we've already seen that the train industry, $25 billion investment, that's a lot. $100 million in train safety, that's an important investment, and a realization by them that they want to run safe lines, Chair Hornstein. So members, maybe Chair Hornstein will withdraw this bill. Guessing probably not, but if that's not the case, I would encourage you to vote no.
The member from Blue Earth, Representative Considine.
I want to thank Chair Hornstein for bringing this forward. We have approximately 20 trains that go through the downtown Mankato on a daily basis. And this bill, when you strip away all the camouflage and the baloney, is about safety. And frankly, for the folks working at home, or watching from home, if you have trains coming through your community, you should be contacting your representative and telling them that you want this to pass. Two people are safer than one. There have been numerous instances where there have been people that have had medical emergencies, or there have been an accident, and the second person has stepped in to control the situation. I know that there have been massive technologies improvements on trains. I trust people far more than I trust technology. We have seen, as far as you like to bring up Menlars, they break down, they make mistakes. And if you have a second pair of eyes, your community will be safer. So again, thank you, Representative Hornstein, for bringing this forward, and I hope everybody will vote green to protect their communities.
The representative from Dakota, Representative Kosnick.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. If Representative Hornstein would yield for a question.
Representative Hornstein will yield. Representative Kosnick.
Thank you. Representative Hornstein, is this provision included in the Transportation Omnibus Bill that's currently in Conference Committee?
Representative Hornstein.
Mr. Speaker, Representative Kosnick, yes.
Representative Kosnick.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. And members, I'm not sure why we, if Chair Hornstein would yield for another question.
He will yield. Representative Kosnick.
Chair Hornstein, is this bill language also traveling in the other body, that we may see it separately?
Representative Hornstein.
Mr. Speaker, Representative Kosnick, I'm not aware that it has had a hearing in the Senate.
Representative Kosnick.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. And that's my understanding as well. And members, we've got like 4 days left to do the work here. I'm not sure why we're taking up a bill here when we don't have budget targets yet. This provision is already included in our transportation bill that's in conference committee. And we need to get the work of the people done here and put a budget together. So I'm not sure why we're taking up this bill here when we should be figuring out our budget targets. I think it's quite obvious, though, the reason that we may be bringing this bill forward is, this bill is just a favor to the unions to codify issues normally subject to collective bargaining. And I think that's the main reason why we have the bill here in front of us, in addition to not necessarily being something that's going to make it safer. The Federal Railroad Administration acknowledged it cannot provide reliable or conclusive statistical data to suggest whether one-person crew operations are generally safer or less safe than multiple-person crews. And the author had mentioned a couple incidences in Canada and North Dakota, and he had mentioned that the two-person crews helped it from maybe being a larger tragedy, but that's just his opinion. The Federal Railroad Administration actually said that it couldn't be determined if that's true. The member from Mankato had just risen to speak that we should have a two-person crew because there's so many trains coming through his community, but yet previously, when I offered the amendment on the 403, he doesn't seem to care about people that live in Minneapolis and St. Paul, where the light rail train comes through, where they're actually killing people. People are dying, but those people don't matter, apparently. So I think there's a big disconnection between...
Point of order, Mr. Chair. Is the gentleman questioning my motives?
Representative Considine, please state your point of order.
I believe my motives have just been questioned by the gentleman on the floor.
Very good. Members, remember it's the motion and not personalities here. Please continue. Representative Kosnick.
Well, Mr. Speaker, and the representative from Mankato, I don't question your motives, I question your logic. If it's okay to have a two-person crew in Mankato, why isn't it not okay in Minneapolis? In 2015, the NTSB chairman stated that based on their experience with accidents, they don't find that a two-person crew to necessarily be a safety improvement over a single-person crew. And so I would urge members not to support this bill. Single-person crews are not necessarily novel or untested. We had other members here talk about the technology improvements that I think make a bigger difference. If you have a two-person crew that is being advocated in this bill, there's not necessarily a provision in here that that person help or be trained to help in medical emergencies. So this is not about incident response. If, God forbid, a train is involved in a release of hazardous material, the crew members would evacuate, share basic information with emergency responders, and then they're drug tested. If there is an incident with an individual on the track, the crew are not trained to provide medical assistance or initiate life-saving measures. And again, members, I think this is more of a bill that we're spinning our wheels on just simply to help the unions to codify in statute issues that are normally subject to collective bargaining. And I think we should be focusing on the real business. The charge at hand is to get our budget targets, get through conference committee that this bill is already through, and get the work of the people done on time as they expect us. And so, members, I would ask you to not vote in favor of the Hornstein bill.
The member from Brown, Representative Torkelson.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker and members. First, I would have to apologize a little because I made the same faux pas that the author made in calling this a two-man crew bill, which is a mistake. It's a two-person crew, and I certainly didn't mean to offend anyone by using a single gender term. Two-person crews really don't make things safer. I had the privilege of observing a Minnesota Twins game last night, and there was a opponent runner running around the bases, one of the Angels going full speed, running around the bases, similar to a freight train, I would say. And when he got to home plate, luckily for the Twins, he was thrown out by a great throw from the outfield. But the catcher, Mitch Garver, who caught the ball and tagged him out, was injured in the play. That freight train, the ball player from Los Angeles, coming down the third baseline, struck our pitcher and injured his ankle. I don't think that having 2 umpires at the plate would have done the catcher much good. He would have been injured in any case. We would have had to pay for the extra umpire, and that would have made our ball club less efficient. I realize that's a bit of a stretch comparing the runner running the bases to a freight train, but I bet the catcher kind of felt like he had been hit by a freight train, by the way. We handed out a long packet of letters here that are a number of folks that are opposed to this idea of a two-person crew. I will list them. The Minnesota Chamber, the Cooperative Network, the Agri-Growth, the Minnesota Grain and Feed Association, the Minnesota Soybean Growers, the Iron Mining Association, Minneapolis Regional Chamber, Ames Construction, the Duluth Chamber, and maybe most importantly, the St. Paul Chamber, right here in the city that we are speaking in today. The users of the railroad don't see any value in making it more expensive to run a railroad. They don't want to pay the extra expense. If we look at the history of railroads and labor, we know that over time, technology has changed the way railroads operate. We no longer have cabooses, so we no longer need the person riding in the caboose at the end of the train. We have fewer people in the engine because there are fewer responsibilities that are taken care of by the personnel. Technology has changed the way railroads operate. And finally, of course, the issue of preemption, the basis of the regulation of railroads, Class 1 and Class 2 railroads here in this country. We don't want to interfere with that federal regulation or with the negotiations of the union. Please vote red on this two-person crew bill.
The member from Wabasha, Representative Driscowski.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Would the author yield?
He will yield. Representative Driscowski.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Representative Hornstein, do you know, has the Federal Railroad Administration entered into rulemaking around this area?
Representative Hornstein.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Representative Driscowski. Again, this is not, my understanding is this is not currently regulated at the federal level.
Representative Driscowski.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker, and Representative Hornstein. Well, indeed, the FRA has engaged in rulemaking around the number of people in a crew that can be allowed under federal law or under federal rules. And so when that rulemaking has been initiated, preemption applies. And Representative Kosnick and others have pointed out, Representative Johnson, the preemption reality here, Representative Hornstein, and that applies to your bill. And I find it interesting, members, that both the author of the bill and the railroad unions have cited preemption numerous times. The author of the bill held it up numerous times about why each of these amendments, or several of them, could not be adopted. But apparently the intention is that the bill is still okay. And it would be assumed then that it doesn't apply. The preemption doesn't apply to the bill, but it applies to the amendments which are directly related to the bill and provide for redefining the bill in ways that are consistent and germane to the bill. So how can these amendments be preempted by the federal government, yet the bill is not? As a matter of fact, members, I have a copy of a couple letters from the Railroad Union who, as Representative Kosnick pointed out very clearly, because In past years, I have been in consultation with this union as they tried to bring forward other similar bills to this one. This letter says that a Representative Heinrich amendment in committee was preempted, and a Representative Heinrich amendment to this bill was preempted by federal law because rulemaking has been initiated around the crew requirements and train requirements. Another letter from the same railroad union, and members, this union is very persistent, says that both Representative Torkelson's and Representative Heinrich's amendments on the floor here today to this bill are preempted by the federal government because they've engaged in rulemaking. But Representative Hornstein, I'm assuming, I haven't asked this question directly, Representative Hornstein, because you've got the bill before us. I would expect you think or maybe are maintaining that this bill is not subject to the preemption of the federal government that these same amendments are. But indeed, Representative Hornstein, it is. And as a matter of fact, Representative Johnson pointed out that those other states that have attempted to bring laws forward either went through litigation and learned that they can't overrule the federal preemption and can't have their laws go into effect in those states, costing them, I'm guessing, millions of dollars. And members, are we going to pass this bill only to discover that taxpayers are again going to be forced to pay for our lack of work around this bill? Because that looks like where it's headed. I'm assuming the majority is going to pass this bill off the floor today, because when you're in the majority, you only bring bills that you know are going to pass because you have the votes. And I'm sure Representative Winkler's got the votes all rounded up for this particular bill. But when, well, now he's showing a little uncertainty, members. I don't think the numbers have changed, Representative Winkler. When this bill goes into law, if it does, and I would certainly hope that the other body has a little bit more sense about them when they decide whether or not to bring a companion through for this bill. But if this were to go into law, we would place the state of Minnesota in the position of defending it. So Attorney General Ellison would, maybe this would be a law Attorney General Ellison would actually defend. I'm guessing maybe he would, Representative Hornstein. And we would then end up incurring the taxpayers of Minnesota very likely millions of dollars defending a law that we knew was preempted by federal law to begin with. This is not a responsible approach to bring this bill forward, members. It's not a potential law that can be upheld. As a matter of fact, other states, the handful of 3 or 4 states that have brought it, every single one of them has not put the law into effect or have had it overturned and told that it can't be used in effect in their state by the federal government. So this is not a responsible approach to bring this bill forward. Members, I encourage you to do the right thing. The right thing would have been Representative Koznick's motion to send it back to committee. But short of that, the right thing at this point is you decide which button to push. The responsible button, members, is red. Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
The member from Otter Tail, Representative Nornis.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker and members. I don't want to prolong this delightful discussion, but if the author would yield.
He will yield. Representative Nornis.
I may have missed this some time ago when this discussion started, but I have a short line railroad that goes through my community, hauling grain, coal, and also ethanol. The coal is used by the power plant, and next year they will be closing that plant, so the coal will no longer be shipped. So I get I got a concern about the viability of that rail line to begin with. So my question is that covered in your bill should it pass?
Representative Hornstein.
Thank you very much, Mr. Speaker. And Representative Nornis, this only covers Class 1 and Class 2 railroads. It sounds like, I don't know the particular line you're talking about, it sounds like a Class 3, so it would not be in this bill.
The member from Anoka, Representative Scott.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. And I was listening with intently to Representative Considine's comments about the trains that go through Mankato, and we have the same concern, particularly in Coon Rapids. At one time, I think this might have changed because we are getting an overpass over this area, but at one time there were 80 trains going through one intersection in Coon Rapids, which creates a very substantial safety concern. And the majority of those trains were carrying crude oil from the Bakken and other places. And this, to me, if we really want to get serious about rail safety, then we build Line 3. We build Line 3 to take the oil from trains to a pipeline where it's much safer. Thank you, members. Please vote red on the bill.
The representative from Olmsted passes. Representative from Meeker, Representative Erdahl.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. And due to the comments of Representative Drazkowski, Nornis, and Scott, my very witty response to Representative Torkelson, who isn't here anyway, is no longer relevant.
The member from St. Louis, Representative Murphy.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Representative Hornstein, thank you for bringing this bill to the floor of the House of Representatives. It's an important bill. Railroads are important to the commerce of America. I have many railroad workers in my district. When the train goes by, almost every time I have to go through part of my district to get to St. Paul. And that happened Monday morning when I was a little bit late. I got trained at Adolph. There were 40 cars. And I thought back, and thank you, Representative Torkelson, for reminding me of how this discussion took place when we had cabooses. And there's a relationship with the trains and the growth of this country, and the people who work on the trains, and the people who watch the trains go by. And I see Representative O'Driscoll there with Representative Heinzman's son. And I think we need teams of at least 2, because when the train goes by, someone should be there to wave at the children as the train goes by.
The member from Roseau, Representative Fabian.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Representative Murphy, you're a tough act to follow, but I'll try. Mr. Speaker, if Representative Hornstein would yield to a few questions, I'd appreciate that.
He will yield, Representative Fabian.
These will be thoughtful, Representative Hornstein. I know, and Mr. Speaker, you may have to rule on my question here, I'm not sure, but Representative Hornstein, can you tell me what is the motive for bringing this bill forward?
Representative Hornstein.
Mr. Speaker, I was clear at the beginning. I'll repeat it now. It is the safety of our citizens, our communities, and the general public.
Representative Fabian.
Thank you for the latitude, Mr. Speaker. I appreciate that. Thank you. Representative Hornstein, you mentioned the train derailment in Castleton, and you mentioned that that was a 2-person crew. Can you tell me, number one, specifically, what did that extra crew person do? Specifically, and I've read the news reports and I was trying to read them again today, specifically what did that 2-person crew do in that particular accident.
Representative Hornstein will yield. Representative Hornstein.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Thank you, Representative Fabian. My understanding is that that was one of those long oil unit trains. And one of the dangers of those trains is that once one of the cars is impacted and there are flames and an explosion, it will rapidly escalate. And that's what happened in Quebec. So one of the crew members acted very quickly to separate some of the cars from the fire, and that prevented a larger conflagration.
Representative Fabian.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. If Representative Hornstein would continue to yield.
He will continue to yield. Representative Fabian.
Representative Hornstein, I apologize. I was off the floor for a little bit, but can you tell me specifically why that train was a two-person crew versus a one-person crew?
Representative Hornstein.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Representative Fabian, the standard practice currently is to have a two-person crew on trains like that.
Representative Fabian.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. And if Representative Hornstein would continue to yield.
He will. Representative Fabian.
So, Representative Hornstein, the standard practice, can you tell me what is that the result of? Is that some federal rule? Is it contract negotiations with the union? What is the standard practice?
Representative Hornstein.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker and Representative Fabian. As we have discussed, this is not currently in federal rule or statute. I wanted to correct Representative Drazkowski because there is no rulemaking process now. The President has suspended that. This is just, I think, this is how the railroads are handling the situation at this juncture. But we want to make sure that this stays the status quo, and that's why we have the bill before us.
Representative Fabian.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Well, members, we've heard, and I appreciate Representative Hornstein's motives. I'm not questioning his motives. I'm asking his motives for behind this. And Representative Scott mentioned what I wanted to talk about, which is the fact that the oil that's being shipped across Minnesota and into Minnesota from Canada and North Dakota has increased dramatically. Just in the last 4 months of 2018, oil shipments into and across Minnesota doubled. One of the busiest places in Minnesota is up on the northern border, crossing Rainy River and Rainy Lake in that area with many oil trains. They come through my district in Warroad and come down along Highway 75 and Highway 59. So for me, members, I think the solution to this, to get these hazardous trains off the tracks, is to getting Line 3 replaced. Line 3 is running at half its capacity at about 380,000 barrels per day. We could get Line 3 replaced, and we could take many, many oil unit trains off the tracks. Mr. Speaker, if Representative Hornstein would yield to just one more question.
He will. Representative Fabian.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Representative Hornstein, are you trying to railroad this bill through?
Representative Hornstein.
Mr. Speaker, Representative Fabian, we've gone through a good process. We had a hearing in the Transportation Committee. There was also discussion about this when we did markup. So I feel we've had a robust discussion and again, a nice discussion here on the floor.
Representative Fabian.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker, and thank you, Representative Hornstein. Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
The member from Wright, Representative O'Neill.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. I'm wondering if Representative Hornstein would yield to a question.
He will. Representative O'Neill.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. So, Representative Hornstein, I've been reading this since we're not sending this to public safety, and I'm just a little bit confused. I'm wondering if you could clarify something for me. You assess a misdemeanor, and the first is a $250 fine, and the second violation is a $1,000 fine. Can you clarify what entity, if it says the railroad, but there's some concern that maybe an employee of the railroad would be assessed this misdemeanor? I have a nephew that actually is an engineer for one of our rail lines here in Minnesota. So I want to make absolutely sure that if something goes wrong and they're not following this exactly, that the engineer or the conductor or some other staff on that train is not assessed this misdemeanor. Can you clarify that, please?
Representative Hornstein.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. Representative O'Neill, the railroad would be the responsible party, I believe, in this situation.
Representative O'Neill.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Well, I wanted to make absolutely sure, because I know there were some questions on this side as we delved into the language, and to have your statement on the floor is helpful so that we don't have engineers and conductors actually assessed a misdemeanor. I do have an additional question, Mr. Speaker, if he would yield to another question.
He will yield. Representative O'Neill.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Representative Hornstein, I'm imagining these trains going through multiple jurisdictions. So when we're assessing a misdemeanor, typically it's in the county that the crime essentially has occurred. So when a train is moving, it's going through multiple jurisdictions, and I'm just wondering if you've given thought as to how that would be assessed. So who would have the legal authority to assess this misdemeanor?
Representative Hornstein.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Representative O'Neill, the jurisdiction where the violation occurs is typically how these are assessed, I think, in other situations. So that would be the case, I believe, in this situation. But I can double check with you. I'm not 100% sure.
Representative O'Neill.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker, and Representative Hornstein. Well, it does. I think it bears more conversation, which is why I think it should have come to public safety. You are talking about a moving target. You're talking about multiple jurisdictions. In a matter of seconds, it could be going from one county to another. Typically, that county would have jurisdiction over assessing that, but I just wanted to vet that, because I think that's an important, if you're going to actually follow up with this and actually going to assess a misdemeanor, you probably should know who's going to be doing that. So I think that question is still outstanding, which is, again, why I really would have liked this to go to public safety, because there are experts there that can weigh into that. But I guess that's the end of my question, since he doesn't have an answer. Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
The member from Carver, Representative Nash.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Well, I hear the train a-coming. It's rolling around the bend. And I ain't seen the sunshine since about 8:30 a.m. I'm stuck in the House of Representatives, and time keeps dragging on. But that train keeps rolling down to the San Antonio. So that, to add a little bit of levity, but members, I have trains that run through my district, and they haul things like grain or other things like, apparently, according to Representative Considine, bologna and the camouflage industry must be shipping a lot by train these days. But what we're going to see as a result of this bill possibly is an increase in prices to those folks. And this is already pretty tight industry. So if you're shipping grain, that's pretty expensive now that you're going to add some extra labor to the train. And if you ship bologna, perhaps out of Representative Poppy's district, that's going to get more expensive, Representative Considine. I don't know where in the state camouflage is made, but somewhere apparently. But folks, this is going to add cost to the people who choose to ship via rail. On top of that, which was now a more affordable option for many of them if your gas tax passes, the affordability is going to be taken away. So I think this is not a particularly good bill, Chair Hornstein, and I'm not going to sing the next couple of verses of the song just for your benefit. Thank you. But members, this is going to add a lot of cost unnecessarily. Technology has taken care of many of the issues that you've articulated, Chair Hornstein. And I just think that it's not something that's going to go anywhere. Perhaps this bill will wind up in Folsom over in the Senate. But members, vote red.
Any further discussion on House File, the member from Hennepin, Representative Bonner?
Thank you, Mr. Chair, Representatives. As some of you may know, my father is fourth-generation railroad. My family has been proud members of the Sioux Line Railroad, the Milwaukee Road, and the Burlington Northern. And my uncle was also an engineer. And what many folks in this room may not know or have not really mentioned about this debate is what it's like to be up in the cockpit of that train. And I gotta tell you, it's tough. And in fact, in some of those longer runs, there's a lot of fatigue that comes into play. There's a lot that can happen when you're up in the cockpit of that machine. There's a lot of things that happen that really scar you. I have a lot of engineers that routinely would talk about things like how, unfortunately, someone decided to end their life by stepping onto the tracks and what it's like to try to slow down that train. We alluded here today that it sometimes takes up to a mile. That might be conservative. Sometimes it takes several miles in order to stop that train. But the things that happen inside the cockpit of a train can be really difficult for engineers to navigate. There are real, practical, logical safety concerns about making sure that there are two-man crews inside that cockpit. And I just want everyone here to be clear that this isn't just about some of these other things we've talked about. Yes, it'd be great if we can have more folks to help out with emergency responders. That's fantastic. It's great that we have innovations in safety so that we can be a little bit safer with our trains. That's fantastic. But the reality is we still have human beings driving trains. And until that changes, a two-person crew just makes good common sense. So members, I would urge you to vote green on this particular bill. Thank you.
Any further discussion on House File 286? The author of the bill, Representative Hornstein.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Thank you, members, for a good discussion. Just quickly, I wanted to respond to several members who talked about, well, this is going to increase costs. We currently have two-person crews. So that is an argument that does not carry weight. What we are going to do with this bill is to codify the status quo to ensure that we have public safety, to ensure that we have a situation where while we have technological innovation, Representative Bonner is absolutely right. We absolutely need to have two people to guarantee safety, which is what we have right now. And finally, a number of people said this is a union initiative. Yes, there are unions supporting this, but I also wanted to remind people, and I have passed out letters of support from the State Patrol Troopers Association, the League of Cities, the Minnesota Professional Firefighters, Citizens for Rail Safety, and our Department of Public Safety. So that shows the depth and breadth of support for this bill as a basic safety issue. And so for that reason, members, I ask for your support and a green vote.
The clerk will take the roll. The clerk will close the roll. Representative Franzen votes no. There being 78 ayes and 52 nays, the bill is passed and its title agreed to. Next bill on the calendar for the day is House File 1065. The clerk will report the bill.
House File number 1065, number 3 on the calendar for the day, an act relating to legislative enactments, the first engrossment.
I'll call on the author of the bill, the member from Ramsey, Representative Lesch.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker and members. This is the Revisor's bill. It's all technical. Article 1 corrects technical errors, and Article 2 removes obsolete language and corrects cross-references. There are no little sneaky nuggets in this bill. I know that staff in the Revisor's office works very hard to ensure that this bill is clean, that it is only the technical corrections, it remains free from any agendas or partisanship, and 99% of the time over my 17 years here, that has been the case. So I appreciate leadership's faithfulness to that principle on behalf of staff who works very hard on this. So I'd ask for your support. Vote green.
There are no amendments at the desk. The clerk will give the bill its third reading.
Third reading, House File Number 1065.
Third reading. Discussion. Seeing no discussion, the clerk will take the roll. The clerk will close the roll. There being 130 ayes and 1 nay, the bill is passed and its title agreed to. Next bill on the calendar is House File 873. The clerk will report the bill.
House File Number 873, number 4 on the calendar for the day, an act relating to local government.
To the author of the bill, the member from St. Louis, Representative Schultz.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Members, House File 873 repeals sections of law that protect the use of the word Portorama. Essentially, if we enact this bill, it would permit the use of this word for other purposes without state penalty. Portorama was a celebration in Duluth to recognize the importance of the port city as a World Trade Center after the Seaway opened in 1959. This celebration started in 1960, and according to John Lundy of the Duluth News-Tribune, Portorama was a big deal in a small town kind of way. So I urge your support for this bill, and I yield to Representative Erdahl.
Representative Erdahl.
Thank you, Madam Speaker and members. And while it'd be nice to be talking about the budget bills today, I do welcome the opportunity to give a little historical perspective to Portorama. As Representative Schultz just said, this, I believe, was started in 1960 and pretty much was through the decade of the 60s as a celebration in Duluth. And 52 years ago, I sat down in my house in Litchfield and clipped out a news story on the Portorama parade and a picture now being handed out depicting the Litchfield High School Marching Band, of which I was a member, and I am circled in the front of that particular photo. So, little did I know 52 years ago, that somehow clipping out that little picture would have relevance in the Minnesota State Legislature. Very little relevance, but at least something. Now, this was the first color guard in the history of Litchfield High School marching in the front row of that parade. And all we were was a bunch of old football players carrying flags and marching down the street, picking up our legs, our knees straight out, listening to the, all right, enough of that over there. I've waited 52 years for this moment. And we played the song, written by Dr. Frank Ben Casciuto of the University of Minnesota. Latina. Da, 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 da. It was great. And we had a great time in Duluth at the Portorama. You know, a bunch of small town kids. We came up, we stayed in a motel, we toured the city, we ate at restaurants, and we were good. We won the parade that day. Grand champions. And I will have to comment, sorry, Representative Lehman, but Grand Rapids was second that day. But I just want to emphasize today, Portorama was a great event in the 1960s. We from Litchfield marching in the parade that day had a great time in the city and in the event. And I have to conclude again with, we were champions.
Representative Schultz.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. I just urge a red vote for this to clean up language in state statute. I mean, a green vote for this. It's been a long day. Green vote to clean up state statute. Thank you.
There are no amendments at the desk. The clerk will give the bill its third reading.
Third reading, House File Number 873.
Third reading. Discussion. Representative Fabian.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. Representative Schultz, you had it right the first time when you said red. So, members, I'm not exactly sure. In reading through the bill a little bit, I'm trying to figure out just exactly what we're doing here. We've got a few days left before the end of session. We've got big discussions going on about here in Minnesota. The question that Minnesotans have been wanting me to ask is do we raise taxes or don't we raise taxes? And the answer that I'm getting from folks back home is a big no. We don't raise taxes. We've got billions of dollars available to get a budget put together, and we're on the floor today debating Portorama, with all due respect to Representative Erdahl and how much fun he had. I thought for sure he was going to start singing Glory Days or something, but he wasn't doing that. Representative Schultz, is it true that, Madam Speaker, if Representative Schultz would yield to a question or two, please?
She will yield. Representative Fabian.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. Representative Schultz, I'm not sure I'm clear on why this bill is coming forward if, from what I understand, the City of Duluth and the JCs have no intention of bringing Portorama back again. So can you re-explain for me what you're doing here and why you're doing it?
Representative Schultz.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. A constituent reached out to me and asked to have this language removed. I contacted the Duluth Chamber of Commerce. They had no intention of using it. The Duluth JCs no longer exists. They were fine. Visit Duluth had no intention of using this, but others may, and that's why we're bringing this bill forward.
Representative Fabian.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. Well, members, if there was another group within the port of Duluth that wanted to use this and kind of resurrect it, I don't see why that wouldn't be allowed. But back to my earlier comments about why we're debating this on the House floor when we have just a few days left in session. I don't see the sense to this one, just as Representative Schultz said in her comments, that a constituent brought this to her, not several constituents. I don't see an outcry. I've not seen anything in the media. So, Representative Schultz, I'd ask you to consider laying this bill on the table, and let's get on with the work of the people of the state of Minnesota.
Representative Schultz.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. If another group used this term, they would be in penalty, a misdemeanor, and so we're removing that. If another group wanted to use it, they would have a misdemeanor if we didn't pass this bill. So it's still an important bill. It could have been included in an omnibus bill, but I believe Representative Erdahl wanted to speak about this on the floor today.
Representative Koznick.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. Representative Schultz, I question why we're bringing this bill forward. The taxpayers want to know what our next 2-year budget is. They want to know, are we going to raise their taxes over 70% on the gas tax and other taxes, $12 billion, or not? And here you ask us, are we going to save Portorama or not? Well, if you come to Lakeville on July 4th, we have a little festival as well, Representative Schultz. We call it Panaprog. Will your bill save Panaprog? It's short for Panorama of Progress. And the festival starts July 4th, runs to July 14th. It's right in downtown Lakeville. It's one of the largest festivals in the South Metro and in the state. We're pretty proud of it. But I think the people of Lakeville and across the state want to know when we're going to get our jobs done, when are we going to pass our budget, and whether we're going to raise taxes or not. And while you might want to say yes to saving Portorama today, to say no to raising taxes. And so Representative Schultz, does your bill also save Panorama of Progress? If she would yield, Madam Speaker.
She will yield. Representative Schultz.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. We could have voted on this bill already if people would just vote rather than make speeches.
Representative Koznick.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. And I apologize, Representative Schultz. There's some discussion going on in the chamber. I didn't actually hear your response, if you wouldn't mind repeating.
Representative Koznick, are you asking Representative Schultz to yield?
I am asking her to yield and repeat her response, please.
Representative Schultz will not yield. Representative Koznick.
Well, maybe we don't save Portorama today. I'm not sure. You know, members, it's in Masons that we have open discussion here, and so the members are informed. So I'm surprised that Representative Schultz does not yield. But she does want to save Portorama. But just know that the taxpayers probably don't care. But we certainly do not want to raise our taxes and would like to get our business done, and I don't know why we're focused on this bill today. So members, vote how you want about saving Portorama. And remember, the Panorama of Progress is July 4th in Lakeville, runs for a week. But most importantly, say no to raising taxes and get the job done, and let's move on and so we can finish the job here without going into special session. So vote how you want on saving Portorama, but let's get the business of the state done.
Further discussion? Seeing no further discussion, the clerk will take the, Representative McDonald.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. Representative Schultz, if you would just yield for a quick question.
She will yield. Representative McDonald.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. Representative Schultz, I belong to I'm on the committee, the Local Government Reform Committee. Representative Sandra Mason is the chairwoman. Do you know if this bill came before that committee? Because I certainly don't recall seeing Portorama.
Representative Schultz.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. Representative McDonald. This bill came before Government Operations. It passed out of Government Operations. We're not saving Portorama. We're allowing others to use that word without having a misdemeanor and getting a fine. So we're just allowing others to use it. So please just vote green and let's vote.
Representative McDonald.
Madam Speaker, actually, I didn't ask whether or not you were saving it or not. That was Representative Koznick. But again, another incident that the bill didn't go to the proper committee. Is that the end of the world? No. We recognize that. I recognize that. It happens here, happens when the Republicans are in charge, happens when the Democrats are in charge. But what we should recognize is that this bill, although with all due respect to Representative Schultz, because it's important to her and her community, what's more important, I would hope, is the fact that we still don't have our budget's targets, and the Democrats at this point still want to have a $12 billion increase in taxes to Minnesotans. And we got 4 days left, and yet not one mention of how we're going to balance our budget without raising taxes in a time where we have more money in the state to spend on the priorities that are important to the state of Minnesota: healthcare, education, transportation. And you want to raise taxes $12 billion when we have a $1 billion surplus, when we have $3 billion more money than last biennium. That's what's important, not Portorama's getting rid of the name. What's important is, Representative Winkler, as you know, that we balance our budget without raising any taxes on the Minnesotans who are finally crawling above their debt, paying off credit cards, saving for college, putting it into their homes, putting it into their savings accounts, and yet you want to raise taxes and take money out of their pocket. That's really a shame. And the taxpayers, I know you've heard them. I know you've heard them. You've heard Minnesotans. They don't care about Portorama. Maybe in Duluth they do. They do care that you're going to continue to raise their taxes, their gas tax, their sick tax, and income tax. So vote red, like you first said, Representative Schultz.
Representative Winkler. Oh, okay. Representative Grossell.
Thank you, Madam Speaker and members. I'll be brief. Important bill? I don't know. Maybe to one person came forward. I know it's on the minds of everybody back in my district, and that is the $12 billion tax increases.
Point of order, Madam Speaker. Masons 101, members have to confine the debate to the question before the body. Multiple speakers on the minority side have continued to make a political message on a point that is not relevant to the bill before us. They are out of order. We've heard many speeches on this subject already, and we do not need to continue. So I would ask you to find Representative Grossell's speech out of order.
Members, I remind that we are on House File 873, the Portorama bill, and debate must be confined to the question before the body, which is the passage of House File 873. Representative Grossell.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. Thank you, Representative Winkler. In reference to the Portorama bill, as far as its importance goes, I have other bills, we've had other legislation that we've tried to put forward with equal importance to other districts as well. My case would be the Line 3 bills. That's important to my district. Portorama is important to Representative Schultz's district. I'm looking at a Line 3 bill that would bring $3 billion in private investment into our state. Bring $3 billion of private investment into our state. The bill in question here, the Portorama, it'll save people from a misdemeanor charge. My bill, or our bill over here, would help bring investment, tax base, for schools, for emergency services, everything. While we're still locked in a $12 billion debate with the DFL being unwilling to move, despite a $1 billion surplus, despite a $480 million forecast, despite, without raising taxes, $3 billion in increased revenue to be used without raising taxes on Minnesotans. And we're discussing Portorama. I would suggest that this is an important bill. Gosh, it's important. But I would suggest that we should have done Portorama a long time ago, or save it till next year, since it's not going to be used anyway. Since the Portorama will not be used in the future by the JCs or anybody else, for that matter, it's defunct. There's a lot more pressing items that could have been addressed. And again, I will say, the Line 3, getting that pipeline moving, getting that work moving for people in my district and across the state, and getting that $3 billion of investment into our state.
Point of order, Madam Speaker.
Representative Schultz, state your point of order.
Can you please remind the body of what bill we're on?
I will remind folks that we are on passage of House File 873.
Point of order, Madam Speaker.
Representative Koznick, state your point of order.
Members have the right to debate, and before members of any Masons, Section 60, Rule 1, before members of any group can reach an intelligent decision, it is necessary that they understand the subject upon which they are making the decision. So I would I would suggest that Representative Grosso continue to discuss the motion.
The motion before us is the passage of House File 873, and we are on that, and Representative Grosso has the floor again. Representative Grosso.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. And I'll wrap it up with this. Maybe Portorama is important to one constituent, but to all of Minnesotans, the possibility of a $12 billion tax increase, that's even more important, especially when we have so much surplus, when we've gained so much through the past biennium without raising taxes.
Representative Freiberg, state your point of order.
Under Mason, Section 121, Paragraph 3, a member who resorts to persistent irrelevance or to persistent repetition after the attention of the House has been called to the matter may be directed to discontinue the speech by the presiding officer. The Representative Grossel's comments are irrelevant to the issue of House File 873, and he's persistently repeating them. His attention has been drawn to it. I would urge the Speaker to find the point of order well taken.
Madam Speaker, advice?
Advice. State your advice, Representative Lucero.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. We've heard this point of order, Madam Speaker, used several times this year already. And it is clear, Madam Speaker, that the use of this is out of order. It is simply used as a point of order to attempt to interrupt the conversation that's taken place or to shut down the voices of the minority. The fact that the point of order has been raised several times in and of itself is an abuse of points of order. And so, Madam Speaker, I find the words of Representative Grosso very relevant in my decision-making in how I will vote on the bill before us, the Portorama bill. And irrelevance is a subjective term. So while in the eye of Representative Freiberg it might be considered irrelevant, in my eye it is not. So, Madam Speaker, I would encourage you to not find the point of order well taken.
Representative Kresha.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. Advice?
State your advice, Representative Kresha.
Madam Speaker, members, here's the advice I'll give you. You have the votes over there. All we have is our voice. If you want to continually try to mute the discussion and do that, you go right ahead. This is all we have is a debate. I get to go back to my district and listen to my constituents, and they talk about, are you getting your work done? Here we are, and you can rise to point of orders all you want. I've been here long enough to know when this flips back and forth, but at the end of the day, the minority just has a voice. Madam Speaker, my advice to you and the body is, let that voice be heard. Let us walk through the debate. It may be uncomfortable for you, and I'm sorry. And to you up in the gallery, you're seeing an excellent display of how the legislature debates through the last days. Our voice is our only tool. If you want to take that away, go right ahead. Raise all your points of order. We can do this all day long with points of orders in Mason. Just let the debate happen.
Hearing the discussion on the point of order, I am not going to rule. I'm going to let the discussion continue, but I do want to remind members that we are on passage of House File 873. We have had several discussion, and we have at least 7 more people on the list to discuss this bill, so discussion will continue, and I will not rule on the point of order, and Representative Grosso has the floor.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. And just to bring the relevance of line 3 into this discussion, line 3 will run across the state of Minnesota to Portorama. There's your relevance. And there's the importance to the entire state. So, Madam Speaker, I guess I'll wrap it up with all of this, with all of the potential funding that we do have without needing to raise taxes, even on Portorama, and with the potential of a $3 billion private investment into our state that goes to Portorama, I would say we would need to get back to bills that are more important, more relevant, and get back to the table and get the people's work done. Thank you, Madam Speaker.
Representative Freiberg. Okay. Representative Schultz. No. Okay. Representative Garofalo.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. Would the Majority Leader yield for a question?
He will yield. Representative Garofalo.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. Majority Leader Winkler. Portorama is a celebration of a city's salute to foreign trade, to the long shipping history, the large ships that come into the Duluth Harbor there. In light of the fact that the DFL's tax increases are sinking like the Titanic, can you give us an update on what you think will be happening with the budget cycle this year?
Representative Winkler.
Madam Speaker, Representative Garofalo, the biggest tax increase I'm aware of is the Trump tariff, which will interfere with Portorama and every port in the country. And so, members, I would ask us to move on to a vote. And there is important work to be done, and your continuing conversation about irrelevant topics does not allow the session to close on time.
Representative Garofalo.
Well, thank you, Madam Speaker, and thank you, Majority Leader Winkler. I appreciate the fact that you and I can join in a bipartisan fashion in opposing those tax increases, whether they are tariffs on imported goods or whether they're tax increases on the fuel that working-class Minnesotans pay, the higher sales taxes the DFL is proposing, or the higher property taxes that are even contained in your bill. So I'm glad that we can work together in agreement on that. I look forward to a successful completion of session and the complete destruction of all those DFL tax increases. Thank you.
Representative Munson.
Thank you, Madam Speaker and members. Thank you, Representative Schultz, for bringing this forward and removing a unnecessary regulation in our state's law. And members, I look forward to the day where we can actually have single subject bills on the House floor. And that means that we need to just discuss the bill at hand, have a quick discussion, and get through these bills that are non-controversial instead of adding bills like this to omnibus bills. Let's have more single subject bills on the floor. And let's not beat them up and drop the plow on every single bill that comes here. So I urge members to vote yes on this bill. It's a good bill. And let's just get going. People want us to get our work done, and passing this legislation and moving on is a great way. Thank you.
Representative Doubt.
Thank you, Madam Speaker and members. Here we are. We have less than 7 days, about 6 days and some odd number of hours before the constitutional end of session. And House Democrats are bringing forward a bill to protect or unprotect some name that nobody's used in 50 years. And this is their priority while they try to distract us from the fact that negotiations are going nowhere. I heard through the grapevine, if we don't have an agreement by an hour ago, that we're headed to special session or worse, shut down. And why? Because at this time, when we have $3 billion of increased tax revenue projected to come in over the next biennium, $1 billion surplus projected in the next biennium, and we have $500 million of surplus already sitting, waiting to be recognized in the November forecast, Democrats have a stronghold on their extreme position of wanting to raise $12 billion of new taxes on Minnesotans over the next 4 years. Democrats, it's time to give up on your tax increases, just like it's time to give up on your time-wasting tactics. This bill means nothing. You're wasting time on the House floor today on a bill that nobody has thought about in 50 years. While in a room, holed away somewhere in this Capitol, people are negotiating, trying to preserve an extreme position of raising $12 billion of new taxes on Minnesotans. And somehow you think that's reasonable? Somehow you think you want the narrative to be to the public, well, how much taxes should we raise? And let's compromise. We'll start way over here, so far out at $12 billion of new taxes that we'll be just thrilled if we get to only raise $6 billion in new taxes. And you know who the losers will be? Minnesotans. Because at home, Minnesotans are going to think to themselves, since the last biennium, when Republicans passed $1 billion of tax relief for Minnesotans, for middle-income Minnesotans, We have increased tax collections projected at $3 billion. So what we know is that when you reduce taxes on Minnesotans, you see economic growth, and the state actually collects more tax revenue. We have more people working. We have more taxable transactions. And people are paying more taxes. And if you are successful in raising taxes on Minnesotans, we will see the opposite. You will hurt Minnesotans, and we will see less tax revenue come in. It is time for you to give up on your extreme position of wanting to increase taxes on Minnesotans by $12 billion. I don't want to go to extra innings, to special session, or worse, to shutdown because of your extreme positions. The question isn't how much taxes should we raise on Minnesotans, and I love that you've been so creative to try to create that narrative. The question in this state right now is, should we raise taxes on Minnesotans, yes or no, at a time when we have $1 billion surplus, and on top of that, $500 million of money that's already come in over forecast, sitting, waiting to be recognized. And tax collections are projected to be $3 billion higher than the last biennium. But apparently that's not enough. I can assure you, members on the other side of the aisle, that the reasonable Minnesotans who are listening to the debate today are on my side of that issue. And they will not be able to figure out why you are going to a special session or worse, a government shutdown because you want to raise more taxes on Minnesotans who are already considered to be some of the highest taxed people in the country. They do not understand it. At a time of surplus, at a time when we have $3 billion of additional tax collections projected to come in, that's not enough for you. I can assure you that they agree with me that you are the ones who have the extreme position. I ask you today, here and now, to abandon your tax increases. Let's put together a responsible budget, and let's get this state moving forward. Members, this bill has no impact on anyone ever. It doesn't matter how you vote.
Further discussion? Seeing no further discussion, the clerk will take the roll. The clerk will close the roll. With 92 ayes and 19 nays, the bill passes and its title agreed to. 92 yea ayes and 19 nays. The bill passed and its title agreed to. Representative Winkler.
Madam Speaker, first an announcement. Representative Carlson asked me to announce that the Ways and Means Committee will meet at 3 p.m. I don't know the room, but I'm sure you can find it. And Madam Speaker, I move a recess to the call of the chair.
Representative Hewitt.
Members, I just want to remind you, tomorrow is Zoo Day. I think we can use a little cuddle time, so take advantage of that. It's between 1:30 and 3. Please go down to the rotunda. I'm the rep that represents the zoo, so please take advantage of that. Thank you.
Representative New.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. Would Representative Winkler yield to a question?
He will yield.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. Representative Winkler, I'm wondering if you have some idea on a timeline for the recess when we may be called back in.
Representative Winkler.
Madam Speaker, Representative New, we are waiting for messages from the Senate, and given this time of year at the legislature, I do not have a time for you. I can tell you that we will give at least 30 minutes notice before we reconvene, and I hope members are prepared to be around this time of year.
Representative New.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. Thank you, Representative Winkler.
Representative Winkler has moved a recess to the call of the chair. All those in favor say aye. All those opposed? No. We are in recess.